Hi, I'm Ann Hsu, and this is my mom, Jane, and my sons, Alex and Zach. Together, we work to bring you the life story of my father, Bertrand Hsu.
My father, Bertrand Hsu, Xu Dahong, known to friends and family as Bert, was born on February 25, 1933, in Shanghai, China. His grandfather, George Hsu, Xu Qian, was a high official in the last dynasty, but joined the revolution to overthrow it and became the Attorney General for Dr. Sun Yat-sen, the father of modern China. His grandmother, Shen Yibing, was an accomplished woman who wrote poetry and held solo art shows in Manhattan for her paintings. Bert's father, Edward Xu Yuan, was educated at Columbia University in the United States. His mother, Pearl Song Lishen, was one of the first 10 female students admitted into Tsinghua University in Beijing, the top university in China. Bert had two brothers, Sonny, who was 2 years older, and Cyril, who was 11 years younger. He also had two half-sisters, Vivi and Omega, and two stepsisters, Helena and Angela. Bert and older brother Sonny lived a comfortable childhood as their family mingled with the upper echelon of Shanghai society in pre-World War II China. During the Japanese occupation, Bert and Sonny were homeschooled for 3 years because their father feared for their kidnapping. A white-bearded old Chinese man taught them Chinese classics. A young college graduate taught them math and science. An old British lady taught them English and Western table manners, and a German girl taught them German. Bert was a smart, happy, and mischievous boy. At the age of 13, Bert went to the United States with his family. They traveled on a converted military troop transport ship across the Pacific Ocean. His father was part of the Chinese delegation sent to the International Bank in Washington, D.C. As teenagers, Bert and Sonny quickly became Americanized. They even held summer jobs at a resort in the Poconos Mountains in Pennsylvania. Sonny played piano, while Bert collected dirty linens and dispensed clean ones to the maid stations around the resort. A college student was assigned to drive the Jeep for Bert because Bert was only 15 and not old enough to drive. However, that college student ran off with vacationing girls all the time and taught Bert how to drive himself. The Jeep's battery often went dead, so Bert mastered the art of starting a car by putting it in gear and rolling it up or down the hills. This experience laid the foundation for him to become an automotive engineer later in life. After 2 years in America, Bert returned to Shanghai to a city in chaos. Everyone was fleeing the advancing communists. Bert entered the World School in 11th grade. He was smart, outgoing, and made friends easily playing softball and bridge and acting in plays. He also met a beautiful young lady, Jane, Jiang Ruifang, in the same class. They dated and fell deeply in love. Jane would later become his wife of 65 years and the emotional rock that steadied him through good times and bad until the end of his life. After high school graduation, Bert went to Hong Kong to join his parents, but they had left for the United States already. They left him money for boat fare and arrangements to attend college in Chicago. Having lived in America and saw that most Chinese were second-class citizens, Bert decided not to go to the United States, but to return to China. He wanted to help build a new China. His love, Jane, was also on his mind. So Bert took the money and went to Beijing because that's where the center of New China was. He knew no one in Beijing and bid farewell to Jane while passing through Shanghai, hoping that after college they could reunite to build a life together. Bert studied physics and engineering at Yanjing University. He was a rare species because he voluntarily returned to China at a time when most people from well-to-do families tried to leave. The Communist Party naturally considered him a good symbol for their cause, so he was elected into student government and put in charge of promoting athletic activities. He played baseball and soccer and was active in many other extracurricular activities. As the bamboo curtain cut off China from the rest of the world, Bert learned that his parents had divorced in America. He suddenly realized that he was truly on his own. In the dark of a winter's night, Bert went to the lakeside of the university and had a good cry. Like it or not, at 17, he really had to be the master of his own fate. During the first 2 years of Bert's college life, there were a lot of political movements. Bert went along with them but always kept up his studies. After 2 years, Yanqing University was dissolved, and Bert transferred to Tsinghua University where he majored in automotive engineering. He graduated at the top of his class and was kept by Tsinghua to become a teacher and researcher. Bert joined the automotive design group in Tsinghua upon graduation. Jane had also graduated in Shanghai and was fortuitously assigned to work at Xinhua News Agency in Beijing. The high school sweethearts were reunited. They enjoyed Beijing together and even met on the baseball field when Jane interviewed Bert as the Beijing team captain. They got married on January 15, 1955, and within 2 years, their son Ning was born. In 1958, Bert led a group of students to design a minicar that could replace human-powered pedicabs. The prototype caught the attention of Premier Zhou Enlai, who encouraged them to improve on the design. Bert was the chief engineer and worked day and night for several weeks to build a new prototype. On demo day, a drive shaft suddenly broke. They hurried to make a replacement, but there was no time to install it before showtime. So, 6 people lifted the minicar onto a flatbed truck. As the truck drove toward Premier Zhou's office in central Beijing, Bert was underneath the car changing the part. When they arrived at Premier Zhou's office, they lifted the minicar off the truck, and Bert drove it into the courtyard as if nothing happened. Bert then took the Premier for a ride and boasted that the automatic transmission made it possible for anyone to drive it. The Premier asked if he could drive it since he had never driven a car before. Bert said yes and changed seats with the Premier. Then Premier Zhou drove around the courtyard as Bert helped him hold the steering wheel. This minicar became a favorite of Premier Zhou to show visiting foreign dignitaries of China's advanced technology. As Bert's professional life took off, his technical expertise and congenial personality gained him friends from all walks of life, including students, technicians, other teachers, and university and Beijing city officials. Bert was always friendly, humorous, humble, and treated everyone with respect. Life was rewarding personally, too, for the young professional and his family. After the minicar project, Bert was asked to lead a team to build a mini SUV that could be driven in the jungle and be airdropped. He and his team were sent to Guiyang in southwestern China, near the Vietnam border, and worked there for 2 years. This project ended abruptly in May of 1966, when the team was ordered back to Beijing. The Cultural Revolution had started. By the time Bert returned to Tsinghua from Guiyang, the school administration had collapsed and Red Guard students had taken over. For the next 2 years, fighting factions of Red Guards kept the school closed. Aside from daily study sessions of Chairman Mao's Little Red Book, most people had nothing to do and took it easy. Bert, however, took the downtime to brush up on his English by reading technical magazines and listening to BBC and Voice of America on the shortwave radio he built. At Christmas time, hearing Silent Night brought him peace and calm amid the chaos. Bert's daughter Anne was born during this period. After 2 years of infighting, Chairman Mao redirected the Red Guards to root out enemies from within. Anyone with foreign connections fell under suspicion. Bert was accused of being a sleeper spy for the United States and put into effective isolation. Every day, a group of students tried to make him confess. Nobody else dared to speak to him. Bert became so distraught that he considered suicide. He finally realized that he was not, and will never be, trusted by the Communist Party due to his family being in the West. He recalled that when he wanted to join the Communist Party in college, he was rejected. When opportunities came for people to study in Russia, he was passed over for fear of defection while abroad. When the minicar project won the grand prize among all university projects in China, a Communist Party member was sent to receive the award instead of him. And when the prototype mini SUV was ready for field testing in the jungles near Vietnam, he couldn't go because they feared he would try to escape. He felt completely misunderstood. After 6 months, without any wrongdoings found, Bert was allowed to return to normal life. But normal life didn't last long. In the spring of 1969, all teachers in Tsinghua were sent to farms to experience the hard life of peasants. Bert went with his department to Jiangxi in southern China to grow rice. The long laboring days were followed each night by meetings to condemn one's past and report progress on thought reform. Bert was very lucky to have a series of relatively easy jobs compared to doing backbreaking work in the rice fields. Because he was one of very few people who could drive, he was assigned to drive a tractor and deliver goods around the farm. After a while, the leader of his regiment thought his life was too easy and had him teach a young peasant how to drive. But when the young guy learned how to drive, the tractor started to break down, so Bert had to stay to fix the tractor. Then they sent another young peasant to learn tractor repair from him. However, spare parts became a problem. Finding the right part for the right tractor required a lot of knowledge, so Bert became a purchasing agent, traveling across the country to secure parts. This was definitely the cushiest job on the farm. The cushy jobs did have their hazards, though. One time, Bert missed the tire retainer ring by a split second as it shot across his face. He just had his ear on the tire to listen if it was sufficiently inflated. Another time, Bert was struck by lightning during a thunderstorm because the tent that sheltered the tractors and drivers had a center pole which attracted lightning. Luckily, the electricity went up one leg and down the other without going through his heart. His legs were paralyzed for several days, but he recovered in a few weeks and was sent back to the farm. Eventually, Bert was removed from the easy jobs and sent to be an assistant cook, where he almost tied his legs together with a pig's legs as he struggled to tie it down for slaughter. Even in times of such hardship, Bert kept his humor and optimism and tried to cheer up his colleagues. But life was very bleak. Many of Bert's friends contracted disease from parasites, and some even died from exhaustion and accidents. After what seemed like a lifetime, everyone was eventually sent home. Bert did forced farm labor for 2.5 years. Back in Tsinghua from farm labor, Bert was assigned to a group to design a new diesel engine. He had no engine background, so he started to learn about it, poring through English literature on the subject since there was none in Chinese. He even translated German, Russian, and Japanese technical papers for his colleagues. Gradually, Bert became an engine man. He built a single-cylinder engine to do basic research, and this work laid the foundation for his second career in the United States. President Nixon's visit to China in 1972 began a gradual thawing of U.S.-China relations. Bert's son Ning graduated high school, but he couldn't go to college because he was not from a peasant or worker family background. Bert was very distraught. He had to accept the life he was living because he had personally decided to return to China. But for his children, they wouldn't even have the chance to choose. The thought of leaving China came to Bert's mind. He decided to contact his parents in the United States. In 1975, Bert's mother Pearl applied for his whole family to immigrate to the United States. But it wasn't until 3 years later, when U.S. and China started to discuss formal diplomatic relations, did the authorities ask Bert if he still wanted to go. Bert, Jane, and Ning had a family meeting. Anne was only 11 and excluded from this meeting. Jane and Ning wanted to go. Bert thought hard about it. things in China were getting better after Mao died and Deng Xiaoping came to power. Bert was just promoted to be the youngest full professor in all of China. Going to the US was an unknown. He was 45 years old with no college degree or work experience in the United States and would have to start from zero. His parents were over 70 and couldn't help much financially. But Jane and Ning wanted out of China. They were ready for whatever challenges laid ahead. Bert decided to go for his family's future. Sent off by large groups of friends and family, they left China on December 27, 1978, 5 days before the formal establishment of U.S.-China relations on January 1st. On their way to New York, where his mother lived, Bert and his family saw relatives in Hong Kong, Hawaii, and San Francisco. He looked for work along the way but couldn't find any. One day, after 6 months in the U.S., he saw an ad in the New York Times newspaper from General Electric looking for a diesel engine engineer. He sent them a resume and was invited to interview in Erie, Pennsylvania. Over 2 days, Bert impressed multiple engineers and managers with his knowledge of diesel engines. None of them had ever heard of Tsinghua University or ever met anyone from Communist China. But Bert was able to communicate fluently in English. His teenage years in America helped him cross cultures effortlessly. They hired Bert on the spot. At the end of the trip, the hiring manager took him to a fancy restaurant. Bert mistakenly ordered a 22-ounce steak and ate only a few bites. Everyone was concerned until finally Bert told them that for the past 10 years, his ration for meat in China was only 4 ounces per month. Within the first 5 years of working at GE, Bert improved the locomotive engines so much that he won the Outstanding Engineer Award among 10,000 engineers across all of GE. A couple years later, Bert led a team to research a new coal and water fuel mixture for locomotives. They won a $25 million contract from U.S. Department of Energy, and Bert was put in charge of the entire project. He finally began to feel comfortable and secure in his new American life. In the 19 years that Bert worked at GE, he published over 30 technical papers and received 5 patents. GE's locomotive market share went from 30% to 70%. In addition to his professional accomplishments, Bert again made friends with people from all walks of life, ranging from blue-collar lab technicians to white-collar professionals and executives, from fellow bridge partners to the Chinese Americans who lived in Erie. Bert was always friendly, humorous, humble, and treated everyone with respect. Erie also provided a quiet haven for Bert and Jane to live a normal American life, filled with lots of bridge, dancing, travel, and no political movements or study sessions. My father, Bert, retired from GE in 1998 and moved to California to be closer to family and Chinese food. He and my mom spent the next 20 years traveling around the world and enjoying life. My dad played a lot more bridge and was very proud to achieve Life Master status. He also wrote a technical book to leave behind his discoveries to the diesel engine community. He was invited back to Tsinghua University a few times to guest lecture and a full year as foreign expert in 2004. He and my mom celebrated their 50th and later 60th wedding anniversaries in San Francisco with lots of music, dancing, and friends. My father considered himself very lucky to have lived a long and interesting life, spanning not only in time but also across geography, cultures, and through the most tumultuous period in modern Chinese history. With his intelligence, humor, and good luck, he accomplished what he wanted to in life, both professionally and personally. At my urging, my dad also wrote down his life story, which formed the basis of what we have presented here. It is a love story of country, of his wife, of his profession, and of his family.